You're listening to They Shoot Films with Ken Mercer and FT Kosempa.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of They Shoot Films, where we talk about the movies that matter. My name is Ken Mercer, and I'm joined here, as always, with the great FT Kosempa. FT, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm a little bit tormented, to be honest with you, Frankie. FT.
With me?
Yeah.
Tormented?
Yeah.
So you got my note. No, I'm just kidding. Why are you tormented?
I'm tormented because I don't know how to begin this episode, which is about the 1976 film Marathon Man, directed by John Schlesinger. And the reason I'm tormented is it seems like I should start the show by saying, I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. Seems like I should say, is it safe? Which I refuse to do, which is just so fucking obvious. And so I don't want to begin the show that way, even though I feel
just
like
did.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. I didn't.
I didn't really.
By the way, so that phrase is spoken by Christian Zell, the Nazi played by Laurence Olivier. Do you remember, FT, we talked a few episodes back about the American Film Institute's 100 movie quotes?
Yes, I do.
So do you think, is it safe, or as Olivia says, is it safe? Do you think that's on the list of the top 100 American movie quotes, yes or no?
American movie quotes? No.
Okay, you're off to a weak start, but I know you always start out.
I was going to say yes, but I was going to, but I said no.
I know you got to work on that self-confidence, but I've noticed you always start start weak and you finish strong. So don't panic. All right, yes, it is on the American Film Institute's top 100 movie quotes in American film from the last 100 years. Is It Safe is on there. What number do you think it is on the list of the top 100 movie quotes? Where do you think it ranks? Is it safe?
83.
Wrong. It actually came in at number 70. So let's play a little game. Hopefully you can redeem yourself, and also I know just try to keep. I always find ways to try to keep you interested and awake on these podcasts. So I'm gonna read you some other movie quotes that are on the list. Okay.
Yes.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is first identify what film the quote is from, and then say whether it's ranked either lower or higher than Is It Safe. Do you want to try to do that?
No, but let's do it anyhow.
Okay. Here's one I know you're going to get. Ready?
Yeah, okay.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Bomb. And I would say that is later, higher on the list.
You mean so again, it goes
above
from number
70,
1.
Above 70.
Okay, so you're wrong. You're correct. It is from Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick's 1964 film, but that is ranked higher than Is It Safe. That's at 64.
You mean higher is lower? This is like
so did you
1984?
Okay,
yes.
did you mean to say that you thought it was ranked higher than Is It Safe?
Yeah, I thought it came before. I should have said before.
Yeah. So again, 100 is the lowest, 1 is the highest. So all right, so we'll give that one to you. You're just confused.
I just lied. I lied.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Oh, geez, I don't know. That's a hard one. Well, obvious, but I would say that is...
Well, say what movie it's from.
No, you say what movie it's from. Chinatown, okay. Jesus. Okay. I would say that's in the 40s.
Okay. It's an especially weak showing from you since we did this on the podcast on Chinatown. I gave you that you knew which number it was.
Oh, like 10 or 8. 93.
Again,
it's like the kids. It's like the kids in grade school, and they would say, like, what's 6 times 23? 44. 75. They just came up with numbers.
So again, you think Forget It, Jake, It's Chinatown is what number? Even though you know it, we've covered it before.
I forget. I don't know what.
You just said 40 something, right?
Yeah, I
40
did.
something.
Do you think that I remember stuff like this?
It's 74, so it is ranked lower. It's behind Is It Safe? Believe it or not, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Here we go. Another one. I have always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Wait, is that Streetcar?
Correct. Streetcar Named Desire.
Kazan directed it, didn't he?
Yes.
And it is definitely, ranked higher.
So you think it's higher up the list than
no, lower. It's ranked before. It's more popular.
Okay, it's less popular. It's 75, so it's 5 spots below. Is It Safe? Okay,
that's ridiculous. Is It Safe? That's, oh my God.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna get this one. I know this is for you, my friend.
Okay.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in the world, she walks into mine.
Michael Curtiz directed it, and it's Victory at Marseille. No, I've been trying to plug that movie. Also shot by James Wong Howe, by the way. It is Casablanca, my friend.
Correct. And would you say more popular or less popular?
More popular. Thank you for clarifying.
Correct.
My number dyslexia.
Correct.
Yes.
Only 3 spots higher, though. It's 67, where Is It Safe? Is it 70?
That's ridiculous.
Okay, here we go. Last one, because I know I already can tell you're getting into one of your states where everything's ridiculous, everything sucks.
I hate it. I love it. I hate it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, next.
Here goes. Ready? I want you to really concentrate on this one.
All right, wait. Give me a second to concentrate.
Use all your powers of concentrate. Okay, ready? Don't do that. You're going to give yourself a aneurysm.
Shut up. Spit that up.
Okay.
Next. Yes.
Say hello to my little friend.
Say hello to my. I have no idea. But I'll bet it ranks higher.
It sure does. And this just proves what a hopeless film snob you are. This is something I would venture that 99.9% of the viewing public knows by heart.
Wait a second. I object to that. I would only say 99.2%.
Whatever. Come on, you know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
Okay, it's Al Pacino. Does that help?
No.
And he says it in an accent. I'm not going to do accents.
No, I want to hear you. Wait. No. I will not continue the podcast unless you do it in Al Pacino. What is this, Carlito? Okay. Is he Carlito here, or is he Tony? No. Is he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you got it. So do it.
No, you do it. No, I won't continue.
Say hello to my little friend.
What's his little friend? A machine gun?
Yes.
Oh, I thought. Okay.
What is it, Frank?
Little friend.
Okay. Say hello to my little friend. What is it? Tony Montana, you got it?
Yeah, wait. It's the Howard Hawks originally. I'm blanking on the, what's the remake's name? What the hell?
It's the same as the original. It's the same as the original.
I know. That's what I said.
Scarface.
Yes.
Say hello to my little friend. And that is ranked higher than Is It Safe?
That's ridiculous.
It is 61. And we better get off this before you start talking about how everybody but you is so stupid.
Everybody but me is so stupid? I don't know. Who's the first person that says it's not safe in the film?
Who's the first person that says it's not safe? Isn't it Roy Scheider?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now you're trying to quiz me, my friend. You're gonna.
Oh yeah. I'll turn the tables.
You're going down if you're trying to quiz me. All right. Let's get to this film, Marathon Man, 1976. And where do we want to start on this? I guess the first thing to say is, this is an example of a film, one of the rare films that has kind of the all-star team gathering. The all-star screenwriter in William Goldman, all-star stars in Dustin Hoffman, Laurence Olivier, Bob Evans is the producer, Conrad Hall is the cinematographer. So it is the A team focused on this, what could have been a toss-away genre thriller.
Yes.
But I think largely because of Bob Evans, he was determined not to just make it a throwaway and kind of killed himself we'll talk about it later, to get Olivier in the film against all odds and get John Schlesinger, an Academy Award winning director, who was, Schlesinger is not the guy at that point you would have ever thought to direct a thriller.
No.
So Evans, as he usually, tried to work to elevate it beyond genre, like he did with Chinatown, which is kind of more than a run-of-the-mill detective film, as it turns out.
Yes. It is more of a run-of-the-mill detective film, as this is more than the run-of-the-mill thriller.
Thank you, FT.
How's that for feedback, buddy?
That's I'm loving your behavior on this podcast.
I'm frying the egg that you are cracking over the skillet. Is what you should say.
Bill Goldman had already won an Academy Award for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Was a hot screenwriter, but Goldman was a novelist before a screenwriter, and he wanted to he wanted to write literary fiction. And do you have any idea who Goldman's literary hero is as a novelist, FT?
I do not.
One Irwin Shaw. His enamored, and he probably had other heroes, but really loved Irwin Shaw. He was writing serious literary fiction. He had an agent who was only about serious literary fiction, and anytime Goldman tried to bring him any kind of genre stuff, the agent didn't want it, told Goldman to stop writing it. It was only after this agent died that Goldman started doing, so he wrote Marathon Man and his other, and Magic and Tinsel and his other genre type novels. But he loves thrillers. This is Goldman now. Do you know who, in the thriller genre, do you know who Bill Goldman loved? It should be easy when you look at Marathon Man.
It's not easy for me because it's not my cup of.
You're going to get this. Just have confidence, FD. If in terms of writing, let me give you a hint. Spy thrillers. Who do you think he really loved? This is Bill Goldman now.
I don't know. Ian Fleming.
Take one more guess because you're going to get it.
Wait, Le Carre. What is that his name? I don't.
Yeah,
I never read this stuff. I have no idea.
Okay.
Who?
Right. Graham Greene.
Oh Jesus! Spy. What did he write? 2 of them? Or Man in Havana, and what else?
I don't know. But
the Vietnam one. The Vietnam one. No, seriously.
I know, but
Indochina.
This is so typical of you. I don't know thrillers. I don't know Graham Greene, and already you know more about it than I do. But
The Quiet American. Yeah.
So Goldman comes up with this idea. His agent dies. He's got this new, an idea for a novel, and the idea for the novel, which became the film Marathon Man, really came in 2 parts. The original idea was, what if Joseph Mengele, the angel of death at Auschwitz, came to America? That was the idea he was toying with, and Mengele was famously in hiding in South America, just like Christian Zell is in this picture. And so Goldman starts pondering, well, what would cause Mengele to come to America? It would be dangerous. He'd be risking everything to come to America. What could possibly make him come to America? And the first idea he hit on, which I think was on some other TV show, maybe you'll remind me, was that he had a heart condition. And there was one doctor, like in Minnesota, that did this operation, so he had to come to America to save his life. Do you remember that plot point in some TV?
It's ringing a bell, but I don't remember the detail. I don't know. Oh, okay. We'll continue. Maybe it'll pop up.
Yeah, or maybe one of our listeners can write in using our website, because otherwise we won't be able to sleep until we think of this. But then he started remembering about, or reading about the Nazi camp dentists who would knock out the gold fillings from the prisoners, and that gave him the idea that he would have been just like in the film. The villain would have been the dentist at a concentration camp, taken all this gold, turned it into diamonds, and it's all locked up in a safe deposit box in New York City. And then the person who's getting all the stuff out from his brother gets killed, so he has to come to America to recover his riches. But there was another component to the idea of Marathon Man, and I think in a way I like the first idea a lot, but the second one is very interesting to me. And that idea was, what if someone you loved, what if it turns out that someone you love is not who you thought they were? And obviously that's the thread of the Roy Scheider character, Doc, or Scylla, as he's known in the trades. Babe, the Dustin Hoffman character, thinks his brother is a businessman in the oil business, and it turns out he's working from some dark intelligence agency. And
the division, yes.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, that's doubled up with Elsa, with the Marthe Keller, somebody who you love, you don't quite know.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, and we're going to talk about
that. It is different, but because, she's not his sister. She's not his brother and sister.
She's his sister and his daughter.
Yes.
Right. It's a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that because when we get into the techniques of thrillers, that's kind of one of the stock technique. That's one of the stock cards you can play as a thriller writer, which is the ally who turns out to be working against you, and you see that again. It's kind of a standard plot twist if you really watch a lot of thrillers. The friend, the accomplice who turns out to be working against you, which is what the Marthe Keller character is. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. But what do you think about this whole notion, for you, FT, as a snob, of, finding out someone you love and you thought you knew is completely different than what you thought?
Well, I can speak from personal experience that I never knew certain things about you, man, and I love you. And when I found out certain things,
you promise not to say it's revealed.
But we've healed. We've healed.
Okay.
We've moved on. No, that's a rough thing. That's a rough thing. I mean, it's a version of betrayal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It happens in different degrees, but in thrillers, it brings it out in a more obvious focus.
And I guess it's something it was actually something I was toying with doing as a play years ago, and I think Goldman must have read the same story, and that's the story of the stomping mare of one of the concentration camps. Are you familiar with that story?
I am not. No.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's Joseph Lillieveld, Joe Lillieveld, who went on to become the editor of the New York Times. When he was just a young cub reporter at the New York Times, he got a tip that this infamous female prison guard from one of the camps was actually living in one of the boroughs of Manhattan. And she was notorious, just like Mengele was the angel of death and Christian Zell, was the white, what do they call him, the white angel?
The white angel.
Yeah.
Weiße Engel.
Yes. Yeah. This prison guard was known as the stomping mare. She was a female prison guard at one of the camps, and she was famous for stomping women and children to death using her jackboots, as well as doing other horrible things. And he had gotten a tip that she was actually somewhere in the suburbs of in one of the boroughs of New York. That her name, she had gotten married, and now she was Mrs. Ryan. So Joe Lillieveld just starts going, gets the phone books and starts going door to door, and to every Ryan. To every Ryan, right. To every Ryan. And then when, there would be some woman who would answer his door and say, "Do you know any other Mrs. Ryans?" Maybe with a German accent. No, seriously. And a woman,
I believe it.
And he got the tip, "Oh, yeah, there's a woman in Maspeth, Queens, that, she talks with a German accent. She's named Mrs. Ryan." So he goes to Maspeth, Queens in the middle of the day, 1964 this is, rings the doorbell. A woman answers with a German accent, and instantly she knows the gig is up. She says, "I always knew this day would come." But meanwhile, she's married to this man since the war, who loves her, and the neighbors all think
she's such a nice person.
Yeah,
right.
So it was always kind of fascinating to me, and I thought it would make an interesting play. And I'm sure Goldman knew this idea because it was in the New York Times and kind of a famous thing. Yes. Yeah.
Hasn't that been done though? I mean, it just really seems familiar. Like it sounds like, Patty Chayefsky material, but.
Well, I find Chayefsky has stolen my best ideas.
Absolutely. The dirty rat.
So coming back to the origins, the other big thing in the and we'll talk about in a minute, the other big thing of Marathon Man is the dental angle. And Goldman talked about as a child, he went to a dentist that did not believe in Novocaine. And
same here, buddy. Same here.
Okay, so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But Goldman, describes as a child the dentist kneeling on Goldman's. As a child, the dentist would kneel on his chest to hold him down in the chair while he performed his dental work because Goldman was squirming around in pain. And it was also interesting, you've probably heard this story before, FT, so Goldman had the idea, was working on it, and went to his periodontist and told the periodontist, what he was working on and how the villain would, dig into this, the protagonist's cavity. And the periodontist said, no, Bill, you got to have him drill into a fresh tooth.
Right.
Oh, please don't worry. I'm not going into that cavity. That nerve's already dying. A live, freshly cut nerve is infinitely more sensitive. So, I'll just drill into a healthy tooth until I reach the pulp. Unless, of course, you can tell me that it's safe.
And so Goldman took that idea and then forever after was terrified of his periodontist.
Yeah, made me terrified to want to see the film again. By the way, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about the tooth stuff, and we're gonna get to it in one second, the dental stuff. But continuing Bill Goldman's story here, Paramount, Bob Evans. So as you probably at this point, Bob Evans has his own production. He's able to not only, I think he's still head of Paramount, but he also has a production deal at Paramount. The first film being Chinatown. And so he does this film under that deal. And he's kind of under a lot of pressure at Paramount because Chinatown is so successful. All the other, producers are jealous of him and saying, wait, he's so busy doing his own films. He's not paying attention to our films. But the interest, if you remember, the genesis of Evans at Paramount was when he took over as head of Paramount, brought in Peter Bart from the New York Times, who was a journalist, and the idea was their whole thing was going to be buying books. His whole thing was films are only as good as the source material, so it was all about buying books. He had sources in every publisher in New York and would always get galleys first, and so. Kind of following those footsteps, he bought Marathon Man, the novel, and Paramount paid in 1975, I think, $500,000 for the rights to the novel, the screen rights for Marathon Man, which included Goldman's screenwriting services. FT, a little quiz question for you. What is, so that was 1975, was $500,000. What is that in today's dollars?
$3.76 million.
Correct. So you're using a calculator.
No, I just made that number up. The number of feet in a mile, 2,500.
It's equivalent to $2.8 million.
Right,
so
yeah.
Quite a payday, but interesting. That was kind of, as I was reading about, that was one of the times in Hollywood history where books were going for high dollars. I think it was because this was just post Jaws, which obviously was a Peter Benchley book that turned into this huge blockbuster. And so Peter Benchley's next book, which did not turn into a hit, went for huge money. So kind of genre books from known writers were going for big dollars back then.
Huh. Yes. Okay.
So Evans buys the rights for $500,000, decides he wants John Schlesinger to direct it because he loves Midnight Cowboy so much. He wants Schlesinger to direct it again. Kind of an unusual choice because there's nothing in Midnight Cowboy that would indicate Schlesinger had the chops to do a thriller like Marathon Man, nor do I think there's anything else he had done. Schlesinger was he's British, and he was a documentary director. And have you seen any of his earlier films before Midnight Cowboy, FT?
No, I did not. I just saw the one before this, which was a bomb, The Day of the Locust Nightmare.
Right.
Which Connie Hall also shot, by the way, which is shocking.
Oh. So nothing really to recommend Schlesinger for this, but I think turned out to be a great choice.
Yeah, it did.
And Schlesinger comes on, and he has casting ideas for Marathon Man. He wants to cast Al Pacino as Babe, Julie Christie as Elsa, the character that ended up being played by Marthe Keller, and he wanted Laurence Olivier for Christian Zell. So probably that idea actually came from him. So good credit to Schlesinger there. Evans always had a thing against Pacino. He called him the midget. I don't know if you know that.
Why?
I have no idea, but it's interesting because Dustin Hoffman is actually shorter than Al Pacino. He never wanted Pacino for The Godfather.
Huh.
Evans was super tight with Dustin Hoffman. I'm rereading, which I'm glad, I was trying to find out more about Marathon Man, so I wanted to reread again, I think for the third time now, Evans' memoir, The Kid Stays in the Picture, which I'm glad it forced me to do it because one of the all-time great, not only one of the all-time great film books, just one of the all-time great books. But in that book, Dustin, every time Evans is in his house, it's always Dustin Hoffman sitting on the couch with Jack Nicholson.
Huh.
So I think Hoffman was always hanging out there, and they're going on vacations together. So Evans is really tight with Hoffman. And so Evans says, no Pacino, Hoffman. Schlesinger fights that tooth and nail because Babe is supposed to be this kid. He's a Columbia graduate student, and Dustin Hoffman's pushing 40. But Evans insists on Hoffman.
Hoffman was 40 at that point?
I said pushing 40. He was 29.
20.
no, he was 36, I think, at the time. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. And,
interesting.
And Evans is all over Olivier, but it was problematic. But before we move on, I've got to ask you, how do you think Pacino would have been as Babe in Marathon Man?
It would have been great. Yeah.
Let me ask you another question then. Would Pacino have been better than Hoffman as Babe?
I don't know. Yeah,
I say yes. I say we're going to get into the acting. I had some problems with Hoffman's performance. It may sound sacrilegious, but now Pacino is Mr. Overactor, chew the curtains. But Pacino back then was a lot more controlled, and I think
it's always hard to tell, who's what and where and in what circumstance. Maybe. I mean, these hypotheticals are difficult, right? Don't you think? Yeah.
Yes. Can you think of any Pacino performances from back then that are flawed?
I think there's a couple movies nobody saw that could be, you know what I mean? No, I can't really.
Yeah.
No. But how about Dustin Hoffman? I mean, Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you got to say. What the weak parts are of Dusty's performance when we get to that.
Okay. Well, we'll wait on that to make sure people don't tune out. They're hanging on the edge of their seat to hear my sacrilegious comments. But what's not hypothetical is that they were able to get Olivier, which was incredibly difficult because Olivier was suffering from cancer.
Yeah, sick, right? Yeah.
And he was uninsurable. Do you know how insurance works in the motion picture?
I do not.
So basically, if you're producing a motion picture and you have a star in it, you take out an insurance policy. So if something happens to the star and they can't complete the picture and you've got to now reshoot with somebody else, you've got an insurance policy that pays out. Because, I mean, think about how much money there. Worst case scenario. About doing a picture where when you're close to the end of your shooting schedule, the star drops dead.
Well, you can usually cut around that. It's when halfway through would be my nightmare.
But how do you cut around it? Well, let's say you're shooting.
Hasn't it been done? Hasn't it been done? No, people die before and then they.
I don't think I've ever heard that. And again, especially if you're shooting in continuity, when you're saying you're cutting around it, but if you've never shot the ending.
Well, if you had shot the ending, if you're not doing continuity, yeah. Who shoots in continuity? Beginners.
No, well, it's not just beginners. There's been a lot of films where the
can you name?
Yeah, I can. And I'm not thinking of
John Singleton was a beginner when he did Boys in the Hood. I just saw that. He shot it in continuity.
Yeah.
Do people understand what this means? To shoot the film in the sequence in which it's written, you follow the script page by page.
Yes.
Whereas if you don't shoot in sequence or in continuity, you shoot by location. So you shoot everything that's in the forest, everything that's in this apartment, beginning, middle, end, all the scenes, and it gets put together in the editing.
Yes, and it's also a thing where like De Niro in Raging Bull, where he's 50 pounds heavier at the end. I think they shot that I forget how they did. Did they shoot him heavy first and then, or how did they?
I don't know, but it's a long wait between him.
Yeah,
yeah. You're right.
I guess maybe it's faster to gain 50 pounds. So I don't know.
Me neither. You should do that as an experiment.
No, you always want. I remember you did this on American Hustle. You wanted me to do weight experiments. Stop suggesting it. So Olivier is uninsurable, and so Schlesinger comes up with another casting idea for Christian Zell. Do you know who that was, FT?
Richard Widmark.
Very good. Very good. Are you feeling pretty cocky right now that you got that?
No.
Correct? There's another trivia question you're about to get.
No. All right, hit me.
Okay. Who was Richard Widmark's daughter married to?
Oh, Jesus.
Or, put another way, who is Richard Widmark's daughter's husband?
Just so they understood what being married to means.
Yes.
Duh. I have no idea. Who?
Okay, before I answer that, I don't like your condescending tone.
I don't like your thesaurus attitude.
No, I don't like your condescending tone where you're like, I had to explain what the husband because again, when we were doing the 100 lines, you were so confused about what was better, what was worse. So I need to really spell things out for you.
You should, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So answer the question. Stop beating around the bush.
No,
who was Richard Widmark's daughter married to?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
John Huston.
Correct.
No, who?
No, Sandy Koufax.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a pretty good trivia question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a good one. Hey, didn't Richard Widmark go to Wake Forest? Yeah, he's a college graduate.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, he was a college guy. Huh. I believe. Somebody look it up and let me know if I'm wrong.
Was that a shout out to the Trump administration to stop all their plans to defund colleges?
Oh, yeah. I was absolutely veiled. So veiled that I didn't even know it. He might have taught is what I thought I heard or read. Oh. The man who tossed the poor woman down in the,
Yes, the wheelchair.
The wheelchair down the stairs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So no insurance. They wanted, and again, you just insure your actors for the number of weeks they're going to be in the production. So for Olivier's part, it was going to be 6 weeks of shooting. None of the production insurance companies would insure. That was the state of Olivier's health. It was so dire that nobody would even give him 6 weeks of insurance.
Wow.
So Bob Evans does a Bob Evans, and he calls David Niven and Merle Oberon, and he says, "Get me a meeting with the House of Lords in England." And they do it. He flies to the House of Lords, and he asks the House of Lords to lean on Lloyd's of London to issue the insurance for Olivier. Probably couched it as it's a British thing, and as Olivier's Sir Laurence Olivier, you're doing it for your country. And Lloyd's of London agrees to insure Olivier for 6 weeks, and he's able to do the film. How much you know about Lloyd's of London, FT?
Nothing.
Okay,
Wait, I know two things.
Okay.
It's something to do with Lloyd's, and it's based in London.
Okay, so you do know. No,
I do know. See?
Yeah, so it's an insurance company.
Yeah, I know it's an insurance company.
But it's actually pretty interesting because I believe the history of it. It started out, I think in like I always get dates mixed up, but is like the 16th century, the British age of exploration. Was that when Britain was sending, ships sailing all over to explore and bring back 16th century or 17th century, something like that?
Yeah, the 1600s, the 1700s, yes. The 17th century and 18th century.
So It started out basically as the
empire,
as a bar, as a pub. It was like a form of gambling where where everybody would gather at this pub and they would have a list of ships that were sailing to Indonesia, South America, and you would say, I think they're going to make it back, or I think they're not going to make it back.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and so it was basically an insurance business for these ships, but it was really gambling. And then the people were good at it. They formed it's basically like a conglomerate, or at least it was Lloyd's of London was basically like this big hall where all that you would go in and, people would, if you wanted something insured, some person would say, oh, yeah, I'll take 10% of that. And somebody would say, I'll get on that too. And that was Lloyd's of London, and now they're insuring Laurence Olivier. This historical educational bit was brought to you by They Shoot Films.
Yes, indeed. That's a good one. So wait, how does that work that you would bet, I'll bet it's going to come back from China.
Right. And so
I put up like 10,000 pounds.
Right. And so if it doesn't come back, I guess then the money goes to the widow, the person on the other side, the widow, something like
and
that.
And the objects, right, for the people that paid for whatever they were buying.
Oh, right, yes.
The tea in China.
Yeah, yes.
half the tea in China.
Yes.
1/4, 0.7.
For Elsa, Schlesinger wanted, do you know who Schlesinger, you've been good at who Schlesinger wanted. Let's see if you get this. Who did Schlesinger want for the Elsa character, the part that went to Marthe Keller?
Now, this would be a test for our listeners, because you already said it. Julie Christie.
That excellent memory skills there, FT.
But that was a ruse. You were wrong.
No, I guess
Jacqueline Bassett.
No, there was good. Yeah, there was some. I don't know what happened to Julie Christie, but he wanted somebody else for Elsa, and it's kind of interesting.
Oh, besides Julie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea.
Charlotte Rampling.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh wow, yeah.
But it's fascinating to ponder that it would if she had taken the part, it would have probably changed film history. Do you know what I'm getting at there, FT?
I do not.
So do you remember the film The Verdict, the Sidney Lumet film?
Oh yes, of course. So
that character again fulfills this role of the ally, the lover, who's actually the spy who's working. So it's the same. It's the same archetype for a character as the Elsa character. So I would have to think if she did play the Elsa character in '76, she would have had to turn down the part in Lumet's Verdict, which would be, I think, very sad because she's perfect.
She's great in that. Good catch there, Ken. Wow.
Last story, and before we start digging into the film itself, the movie opens, and I think like 3 weeks later, a month later, Bill Goldman decides he wants to, sneak into a theater and watch it with an audience. So he goes into I don't know if you know, Goldman was always New York based, never was in Hollywood. He sneaks into a theater in Manhattan, sits in his favorite place to watch the audience. His favorite place to sit is like the last row so he can get up and leave. And he's watching the movie play, and the audience just starts streaming out. And Goldman's just dying because he's like, oh, I can't believe they're it's going to live. There's so much great stuff in this movie, and they're just walking out on it, and he's just dying.
Huh.
Yeah. And then he just sits there and he's completely bummed out. And then everybody starts coming back in with popcorn and drinks. And what he realized was the word of mouth on the picture about the dental scene. People just said, wow, I'm not going to be able to take. And so they had everybody planned, okay, when the dental scene's going to happen, I'm going to walk out and go to the bathroom or get popcorn because I don't want to have to see that.
Yes. Oh my God. That was my initial concern about when you said, let's do this. I was like, nope.
Yeah, I know you were very afraid to watch the film because of the dental sequence. And it's interesting that, I guess the question for you, I'll skip around here. If this film didn't have the dental torture scene, would it be forgotten today? Would it have been first of all, do you think the book would have even sold without the dental scene? Would it have become a hit without the dental scene? Would we be rewatching it today? The dental scene just seems like the hook for this film.
It is. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the hook, so to speak. It's the pick, the hook,
Right. Yeah.
and the drill. Yes. No, I don't think so. And it's interesting that when you really look at screen time, it's not really that long. It's just pretty well done.
Yes.
And the problem is, it's like Polanski's Tenet. When Polanski throws himself off the roof the first time, nobody believes that he's going to crawl back up and jump off the second time. And so I forgot there were two sequences. 2 times when the vice angle drills into Dusty's teeth, and that's what shocked me. I was just like, "Oh, it's over" after the first one, and he escapes. I had forgotten that the whole Devane business, is a double agent.
Yeah, that is, again, because of this, the nature of fear is, so much of it is the anticipation of what's about to happen. And so the brilliance of that design, and I've got some quibbles with that whole, Devane rescues him, brings him back, but it's brilliant in terms of a suspense technique because, when he comes back, the audience is, especially an audience seeing it for the first time, is just, he's back. And I think in the book, the way Goldman writes it, he writes that scene, the Janie character takes him in the car, and then I think the chapter ends with Goldman saying 12 minutes later, he was back in the chair. Huh. And that's the end of the chapter. So, the notion that he's we've gone through it once and now we're back to it again. It's almost like it's worse. The prospect of the second time, knowing what's going to happen, is worse probably than the first time. And we know that because Babe's response to Zell in the first, he's like, you're going to have to be more specific about what, is it safe? You're going to have to be more specific. You're going to have to be more specific about what you're referring to. So he's light at the beginning, but I'm sure he's not going to be so light the second time he goes back in the chair. But playing on this fear of Dennis was a brilliant idea for Goldman. FT, do you have any idea what percentage of the population has a fear of going to the dentist?
63%.
Correct. How do you know all the stuff off the top of your head? No, it's 30% of the population.
That's all?
30%.
That's bullshit. Everybody's acting, they're lying.
Okay, well, let's. Can we jump to the opening scene?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay.
The opening scene.
The opening sequence, really. And my first question for you, my friend, does it work? The opening sequence.
Now you're talking about the road rage chase, whereas that's really not the opening, because the exact opening is Klaus Zell at the safe deposit box, which is something you forget. Right. You forget, right? And I wrote down a note about that. I don't remember that.
Okay, well, sorry, just so we're clear. I'm saying the opening sequence, so yes, it includes Klaus Zell at the safe deposit box and ends with the explosion. Actually, it doesn't end with the explosion of the oil truck. It explodes, I'll say it officially ends with Dustin Hoffman running around the reservoir and seeing the explosion. That's where it ends. That whole sequence doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Right. Yes, it does. For me, it works. But it actually also ends when he's back in his apartment, where you hear that it's Yom Kippur on the television, which is Goldman's disclosure.
Yes. Well, we're going to get there in a second, because I think that you're getting at what works for the scene. For me, the sequence is flawed because the Jewish character and the Zell's brother, the German character, the road rage, I feel is so over the top and so unmotivated that I feel it's unfortunate.
Huh. Okay. I mean, I guess there is a part of me that sort of let it go. I mean,
you let it go, but it's over the top. And I think if you read the novel, it's a good example of the written word novels versus film and the difficulty of adaptations. And especially the difficulty of a writer adapting their own works, because in this case, Goldman was adapting his own novel. So in the book, it's all interior. It's the Jewish character who is named Rosenbaum. It's just inside his head about everything that's going on as he's driving that day, and it spins back into his life. So his action, ramming the German guy, is motivated in the book, whereas in the film, it's like comes out of nowhere almost when he rams the German guy and chases him all over.
He hears the German accent.
Okay, right.
It's more motivated than you think.
You're a goddamn menace. You know that, you senile old cocker? Oh, long summer. Don't you tell me, long summer, you kraut meathead, mock smell, gate cocken effing yum, gehen zum Teufel. Jude, you, alter Jude. Why, you Nazi bastard. Kein Wunder, Hitler wollte das Nazi. Schade, dass Sie nicht... Ja. Geh, leck mich am Arsch. Scheiß an deinen alten Chevrolet.
So, FT, every time you hear a German accent, do you ram the driver in front of you? Is that motivation for what he did?
What if I do?
Even if he hears a German accent, to ram the guy, to chase him through this, to me it felt unmotivated because it's all interior in the book, and I just feel like it. I could see, again, for Goldman, it's his work, not killing his darlings. For Schlesinger, oh boy, again. But why not just have just set up Christian Zell's brother, that he's got and let him fucking die. He dies. It doesn't have to be this car chase.
True. Yes. Right.
But coming back to the opening sequence, what I think is good, which you pointed out, is the way that opening sequence ties all these elements together. So this random road rage and the death of Christian Zell's brother ties us into the protagonist, Babe, because he's running around the reservoir, happens to see the aftermath of the explosion. Then we're at Babe's apartment, and he turns on the news, and we learn that it's Christian, the famous Nazi Christian Zell's brother who dies. Right? Isn't that set on the newscast?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yes. So a lot of information there, and tying everything together. That works great. You have to say about the screenplay that it's an incredibly tight screenplay.
Yes, it is.
And if you put a stopwatch on the first 30 minutes of this film, it's unbelievable how much information and how many things get set up in 30 minutes. And I think even in the first 30 minutes, the other thing is we get the romance set up. The romance is so efficient. I mean, it's much like my own marriage that, I met my wife and then, within minutes, married, children, the whole deal.
The romance is problematic, but yours is wonderful.
I didn't mean to say it was problematic.
Wait, you didn't mean to say it was not problematic.
I like the account. Too many writers, if they do the romance, it's like I got to have this scene and this scene, and they got to have roses, and they got to take baths together, and they have to soap up each other's backs.
Well, you do. But, look at, you've never seen the road rage maniacs in New York. And although you lived in New York there for a while, wait, can I inject one thing?
At 2
minutes and 3.
Can I say something before you interrupt me?
No.
Can I say something before you interrupt me? I was a road rage maniac in New York. I was a road rage maniac in New York, motherfucker.
I was a teenage road rage maniac in New York.
Okay, what are you going to say? What were you going to say?
At the beginning, when Klaus Zell is getting the safe, he closes the box. I noticed this when I watched it the first. I'm like, oh my God! He stops when the guard opens the gate up. He gives like a sort of a thank you, and it's a Nazi salute.
Oh, really?
Yes, because it's the only way.
Much like Elon Musk.
It's the only way he knows how to respond to somebody in a uniform. A thank you. It was weird. Right. I looked at it a couple of times.
That is a nice character. Good one, FT.
Well, you were saying about economy of disclosure of character stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's missed, but boy,
it's missed, but not by old Eagle Eyes Kosempa.
Old Eagle Eyes, and now everybody will see it and go like, wow, I don't need to see the rest of the movie. I gave it away.
Yes. Can we move on to the Roy Scheider Paris attack scene?
Yes.
There's a couple of homages, as the French like to say, in this scene. Can you name them?
In the
in the Doc Paris attack?
The Pink Panther. No. And I'm very interested in what you think are homages. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, so first of all, so this is a thriller. We've already said that.
Yes.
If John Schlesinger's directing his first thriller, who's he going to pay homage to?
I don't know. Who?
Hitchcock, Rear Window, with the guy in the wheelchair witnessing the murder.
Oh, Cross the Way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're right.
And then it's
very
interesting.
effective. Yeah.
No, because the first time when I was watching it, not for the first time, the use of the guy witnessing the crime from the wheelchair, just it I was like, wow, that was great that he did that, because it totally opens up the whole thing, makes it seem more real, adds context. And then I realized, it's really coming from Hitchcock, but so much stuff comes from Hitchcock. But there's another kind of...
But wait. The important thing there is the point of view. That we're seeing it sort of we're seeing him seeing it. We're not at Scotty or whatever the name of the character was in Hitchcock, the James Stewart the Jimmy Stewart character. We're not from his window. It's from Roy Scheider's window. You know what I mean?
Both. When it goes to the guy in the wheelchair, we cut from across the street.
We cut to see the blood on the window, the blood on the curtains.
Yeah, no, you cut from his point of view. So
true, but it's not the same for me. I hear what you're saying, but it's not the same,
Okay. So I just want to, okay, once again, I want you to put it on the record, Frank, officially. Is it exactly the same as Rear Window, or is it not exactly the same as Rear Window? What do you want?
It's an illusion.
All right. There's another kind of quote homage to another film.
Don't say the baby carriage. Please don't. Say it. The baby carriage. What is it?
It's the killing of Johnny Ola in Godfather 2. If you watch that, it's the garroting out on a balcony with the curtains. Johnny Ola is the guy who, Michael Corleone finds out that his Fredo betrayed him, worked with this guy Johnny Ola, and kills him, and has one of his guys kill him in the hotel room with a garrote. How do you say garrote? Garrett?
I have no idea what you're talking about. You mean a wire?
Yeah, it's a wire with two handles, and you twist around somebody's neck.
What else is it for? Meat?
No, I think it's for murder.
That's the purpose?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, how would you feel about being garroted? Actually, let me get the quiz.
Great.
Hold on.
Of all the ways to go.
Let me ask you.
How would you dentistry?
No, hold on. Garrote. How would you feel about being garroted? A, relaxed. B, a little uneasy.
Slightly anxious.
Right. No, seriously. No, if you had to be murdered, how would you feel about that? How do you feel about being garroted?
I feel like
would you rather be shot? Would you rather be shot? Would you rather?
I don't know. I would rather have it. If it be murder, be instant. This seems to be pretty instant.
No, it's not instant.
Isn't it when you did it right? Oh no, they fought like crazy. No, horrible.
Yeah, but even if
but he finally breaks his. Right.
Even if you're not, it's obviously it takes some time to choke you out. So it's not. So you'd rather be shot. I'm just taking notes. I'm just taking notes on what
what to arrange later.
No, how to get rid of you.
Yes. I don't want to. I refuse to answer.
I'm going to talk to. I got to go to a meeting with our producer Anne Marie De Palma. Sorry, I tried to get Frank to leave to write books on Nazi salutes. He wouldn't do it. So, but he doesn't want to be garroted. So you got to shoot him.
No, she's like, that's all right. We're just building a case.
Okay, all right. So HR.
HR.
So FT. How about if you had to murder somebody? Would you like to use a garrote?
I would not.
Why? Does it make you uneasy?
Makes me slightly anxious. God, I hate this. Oh my God. How about you, Ken?
What?
Would you like to use one? Would you prefer to use one if you were going to murder someone?
I don't think so.
I would never murder anybody.
I wouldn't want to use a garrote on people.
No, no, it's terrible.
All right, cool. That's why we're such good. That's why we're such good partners. We both agree that
anti-garroted.
We're firmly anti-garrote. Okay, all right.
They shoot films firmly anti-garrote.
If I could say something before you interrupt me, can we move on to Doc being stabbed by Christian Zell and then staggering to? Actually, this is going to tie. No, it's not. And then he staggers to Babe's apartment.
It's ridiculous.
What's ridiculous?
Him making it there.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So you found it weird that he gets stabbed and that he goes to Babe's apartment.
I find it weird. No, I found it impossible. But I mean, you see the size of that knife that Robert De Niro, the taxi driver, was Taxi Driver before this or after this? Before, right?
I think strangely before, but I wouldn't bet money on it.
With the gun coming down the device.
Yes. Well, the Zell thing is weird because I can't figure out where that blade actually comes from. I guess it is up his sleeve.
It's up his sleeve and it slides down like the pistol does in De Niro.
Right.
It's the same device,
in
so
Taxi
it must
Driver.
have been around.
So I think the problem here, again, just like my problem with the opening sequence, is in the novel, it's totally set up. And basically the setup is there's like Doc is much more developed in the novel until the point he dies. And there's a scene where he witnesses the death of a fellow assassin in an airport.
Right.
And he vows again in his mind through, interior monologue, which we can't have in a film. He vows that if he's going to die, he wants to die with someone he loves. He doesn't want to die alone, which sets up the motivation for this impossible, as you know, people who suffer horrible accidents they can have a superhuman motivation to do something before they die.
Yes.
And so this was his, first of all, what we knew in the novel and even in the movie, we get to take, Doc is he's a strong motherfucker. He's incredibly trained. He's incredibly fit.
His push-ups on that bed.
Oh
my God.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way he takes on
Yes.
Again, even though you don't want to be garroted around the neck, I think if you were garroted around the neck, you would not be able to fight off someone the way he sacrificed his hand, and with the hand that's had a wire sliced through it, he's fighting the guy off.
Yes. Garroted by the carotid.
But so I think it, with that motivation in the novel, if that's just the one thing he wants in life is not to die alone, but to die with a loved one, he could drag him. Again, if he's stabbed in the gut, a gut wound does take a long time. You bleed out. It's not instantaneous. I could see him getting to Babe's apartment, but let me finish here. The question in the movie is, we don't know why the fuck does he go to a hospital? Why does he drag himself to Babe's apartment, which doesn't make sense without the motivation. Yet it's so important to the screenplay because when Doc goes to Babe's apartment, then Zell's got to think, oh fuck, the guy went and told his brother. Now we got to find out if the brother's in on this whole thing. So it's so crucial to the whole plot, but unmotivated the way it's handled in the movie versus the book.
But you don't care. You don't care because it moves right along. There is one possible, I thought about this and I didn't torture over it, as you would say, nor did I have a sleepless night. Maybe I had a sleepless minute. But part of me believes Doc wanted to tell Babe something about Elsa, because it's not until the end of the whole film we find out when she admits that she's a courier as well. Remember, that whole lunch scene is really weird.
Right.
That was before this. That was right before this.
I don't think that... and again, that's the problem here.
Well, I'm saying it's a possibility.
There's a world of possibilities, but again, this is the difficulty for Goldman adapting his own work. In the book, where he's free to go inside characters' heads, we know exactly what they're doing, and he was not going there to talk about Elsa. He was going there to die with his brother. And all he does when he gets there, what is he? He doesn't when he's dying. He doesn't tell. He has last words to Babe. He doesn't say Elsa. What does he say?
Babe.
He says his brother's name.
I know.
Right.
But you can't. Since they chose not to do voiceover, and so thank God.
Yes.
But the only motivation I could come up with was what I said, and of course,
right. No, you're right.
Because that scene in the we didn't talk about that. That's a troublesome scene. That's the first troublesome scene.
What's the troublesome scene?
The lunch where he exposes who else is that she's a liar.
Okay, why is it troublesome?
Well, because Babe goes, well, stick your nose out of it. Keep your nose out of it.
That's right at the foot of Mount Rosa, isn't it? Mm-hmm. He says it's some of the best skiing in the world. Is that true?
Of course.
Is he 100% right?
Sure.
Well, then you must know Claude Lesueur, the instructor there. Have you skied with him?
Yeah.
Where is it? Verbier.
Verbier.
I've made all this up. There is no Mount Rosa in Verbier, and there is no Claude Lesueur. You're not Swiss, what are you? What are you?
Can't you guess?
Sure, German.
Anything else?
How long are your working papers good for?
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's a joke. It's not funny.
I don't need work papers. I'm a student here. Je comprends vraiment
I
pas ce
don't
qu'il veut.
know. Whatever you do.
Well, many foreigners marry Americans to make things nice and legal. Then all of a sudden the marriages don't work out.
Is that what you think of me?
Look, stop it. Just stop
Don't
it,
you ask
man.
me if I care for him?
Why bother? You haven't told the truth so far.
But why don't you ask me if I love him? Why don't you...
Okay, wait a minute. It's all right, Elsa. Wait.
Let her go.
Why?
Because she's a phony. She's after something. Can't you see
But
it?
why don't you stay out of it?
Which is ridiculous. Like, wouldn't he stop and go like, what the hell's going on? And by the way, back at the apartment, how that whole business begins is he's on the phone with Elsa and she's giving him some bullshit line about she was afraid to say she was a German, blah, blah, blah. And that's when Doc breaks down, the door and shows up bloody. I just think for him to travel from Los Angeles, where the double ascension sculpture is, that staircase, all the way to New York with the stab wound is fucking impossible, buddy.
Sorry, what FT's trying to say is
Trying to say? I just said it.
They shot on location in L.A. and then Babe's apartments in New York.
I wasn't trying to say it. I said it.
I'm proud.
Successfully, I said it. Yes.
But I am proud of you, FT, because usually you do nitpick, and this one you're like, you accepted it, you moved on, which again, I think is what the filmmakers were counting on, and what I've told you so many times before in thrillers, they're held together with duct tape and a couple of staples, and if you really start pulling them apart, they don't work. So you need.
What did you use duct tape and staples on?
My novels. My screenplays,
my neck wound, my carotid.
We need to move on because tape is expensive. Sorry, I'm not talking about Scotch tape. I'm not saying
you are talking about Scotch tape.
No, I'm talking about recording tape.
Yeah, quarter inch.
We're going to move on to the bathroom scene.
Which one?
The one
where he smartly, after being told, "I'm going to use you as bait, I'm going to take a bath."
The one where he eats where Babe eats the bad tamales. No, the bath scene where he takes a bath and the henchmen break into his apartment. That's
which is again ridiculous.
Okay, why is that ridiculous?
Well, let me just say one general point. I don't nitpick because you just go like, quit nitpicking. And, it's like poetic license and all that. But the reason why this bothers me is that when people allow this flow to go by, when things aren't making sense.
Okay, why doesn't it make just
Wait. It affects our perception of reality.
Okay, but why doesn't it make sense? It made sense to me. But
that he would take a bath after his brother's dead, and after he's being told that some bad people are after you, he'd put himself in this defenseless position. I sat there and went, "Get the fuck out of here, man!"
Okay.
It just
So how do you feel about the Big Lebowski? Then you dismiss that as well?
What? I forget what there's a bathroom scene there. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, after Jeff Bridges' car gets stolen with his Creedence tape, what does he do? And I believe me, I think the Coen brothers were doing a homage to this film. So remember Jeff Bridges' car gets stolen with the Creedence tape. He gives the police report, and then he goes home, and we see him in the bathtub smoking a joint, and these guys
that's
break
when he's attacked.
Right,
Yeah,
the nihilists break into his apartment, and he delivers the line. Remember what he says to them?
No,
he's in the bathtub. He hears the door being broken down, and he says, "Hey, this is a private residence, man." And then they come in, and he says, "Nice marmot," and then they throw the marmot in the tub. And so, FT, I find it less plausible about marmots being thrown in the bathtub than the fact that Babe would take a bath in this movie.
Good for you.
No, his brother's died. You know, he thinks, you know, he's been through a lot, so he takes a bath to relax.
So do you take a bath after each podcast? Since you've been through a lot.
No, but
see, that's my argument. That's why it's ridiculous. Next, move on.
But I think, well, do you think
See, you're speechless.
Do you think the bathroom should win an award, Babe's bathroom?
For design, decoration?
For the grossest bathroom.
I've seen those in New York, haven't you? You ever seen
Well, I was wondering, when was the last time you saw Midnight Cowboy?
Yesterday.
Okay. Are there gross bathrooms in that? Is that like a Schlesinger hallmark?
It's the whole place where they live.
Okay.
That's what I watched last night. I said, I'm going to watch this one because it was a similar experience of I haven't seen it in 25 years.
Right. How did it work for you? How did you like it?
Good. Really, it held up.
Oh, okay.
I thought it held up quite a bit. Again, the performances, were excellent. It's a weirder film. It's a much weirder film.
Right.
Psychedelic elements, that were missing in this one.
Let's move on. So let's accept that he needs to relax. He takes a bath, and when he takes a bath, he wants to put a washcloth over his eyes so he can't see. How do you feel about when the goons break into the apartment?
Oh, it's great. It's really well directed. You get the sense it's such a closed space.
Yeah.
It's just a great disclosure of the whole thing, back and forth by him in the window trying to smash through those impossible little New York windows, which don't open, 15 coats of paint, right?
Yeah.
And then the crowbar with the molding, which is going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, oh God, it was great. It was one of the best, I think, edited and shot scenes in the film for me.
Yeah. No, for Schlesinger, for a again, a documentary director, never directed anything like this. The way he shot, and also, as you said, credit to the editor, but really the design from Schlesinger's point, the brilliance is never leaving the bathroom. As to the way the Coen brothers handle the marmot nihilist scene. In that you see outside the door, you see the nihilist. Here, we just hear it, and we just see the crowbar coming at the hinges.
Right.
And again, it's what you don't see where your mind – so that fear, and also by not leaving the bathroom, as you said, it's so claustrophobic in there.
Yeah.
And then the way the scene plays out, and credit to Hoffman in this scene, the dilemma he faces, what do you do? Oh, the window. I'll try the window. No, that doesn't work. What do I do? What do I do next? And then the final choice left is to just run at him head on.
Yeah,
right?
Open a door. Yeah. Hey, look, by the way, I disagree with you. I think it's because of his documentary filmmaking that he was able to think about what the details were to shoot. So he had one setup where Hoffman's trying to get out of the window, then he exits the frame, then the other shot of the door. It's kind of simple, but it's that's, I think, an editing. I don't think it's a major, design in the shooting standpoint. It's like, let's shoot this and we're going to cut it right. But that's just my opinion.
Well,
and I only looked at it 14 times. So
okay, but again, the main decision, and maybe he shot coverage of the goons outside the bathroom.
I doubt it.
Okay, well that hats off to Schlesinger for saying no.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
We're just gonna be inside the bathroom. It's all going to be from Dustin's POV.
In his situation, yeah.
Let's cut to
the how does that end? Right. So he runs out the door. Then they they drown him. They try to drown him. They waterboard him. Right? Yes, that's right. Yeah, well done.
Let's cut to the torture scene with Laurence Olivier. Your thoughts on that, FT? The first one. Let's deal with them separately. The first one.
It's torturous.
Yeah.
No, what are you going to say? I think, you hinted at that, where I think Hoffman's great in that, by the way, where it's just like, what the hell's going on here?
Yes.
Okay, it's safe. Yes, it's safe. It's definitely safe.
It's very safe.
Then he goes, it's
very
not safe. Right, it's extremely safe. You won't believe how safe it is,
Yes.
Is it safe?
You talking to me?
Is it safe?
It's what safe?
Is it safe?
I don't know what you mean.
I can't tell you if something is safe or not, unless I know specifically what you're talking about.
Is it safe?
Tell me what the it refers to.
Is it safe?
Yes, it's safe. It's very safe. It's so safe you wouldn't believe it.
Is it safe?
No, it's not safe. It's very dangerous. Be careful.
That hurt? No, I should think it would. Should take better care of your teeth. You have quite a cavity here. Is it safe?
Look, I tell you, I can't do it.
Think he knows?
Of course he knows he's being very stubborn.
Please don't.
Is it not remarkable? Simple oil of cloves, and how amazing the results. Life can be that simple. Relief, discomfort. Now, which of these I next apply, that decision is in your hands. So, take your time. Tell me, is it safe?
But, the scene sort of struck me as artificial, though. Is it safe? It bothered me this time, to be honest with you, because I didn't know what possible answer he could give. It struck me as needless torture.
What do you mean?
What answer could he give?
Well, either yes, it's safe, or no, it's not
he did.
safe. It's,
he did.
It's binary.
But it's not quite
he
binary.
did, but he had no way. He did not have it didn't. It was not.
What did he lack? Conviction?
You clearly didn't know. It was not convincing.
Yeah, but how would you convince him? So in other words, they thought that Dustin Hoffman was holding back. It's not safe because my brother told me such and such. Right? I was trying to run this through, I was running scenarios, as they say, when I was after watching this. I was like, what could he have said?
Okay, so again, Zell thinks because Doc went to Babe's apartment as he was dying, that Babe is in on the plan. The plan being, because remember the whole thing, which you said is shot in L.A. between Zell and Doc when Zell kills him, is, I have to go to the bank. Well, maybe I've been there already. Are you going to, trying to find out if Doc's going to rip him off. And and Zell definitely thinks Doc's going to rip him off, which is why he kills him. But now that Doc goes to Babe, he's got to find out, is Doc in on it? Is it safe for me to go to the bank? Again, I'm a fucking Nazi in America. I've got to get there. I don't want to get ripped off. And I know Doc was trying to...
It doesn't make sense. Forget it. What kind of but anyhow, let's move on.
No, Frank.
Dustin Hoffman presents no threat.
You're saying this from your hoity-toity position as a non-Nazi.
That's right. Well, Mr. Hoity-toity as a non-paranoid Nazi. That's correct. Blue-eyed that I am. Whoops-a-daisy.
Yeah.
I just didn't, I didn't buy it.
You cannot tell how a Nazi would act unless you've walked a mile in their shoes, FT.
Unless you goose-stepped a mile.
Okay, so basically here's where we're at now, FT.
Yes.
Earlier you said that this film wouldn't work without the dental scene. Now you're saying you hate the dental scene.
No, I'm not. No, look at you. Just reduce things down, you reductionist. No, I'm saying it wouldn't work. It's just a torture that makes it work. I mean, people just go, oh, my God. But when you really ask, what could Babe have possibly said? He's in on it?
He can say nothing because he doesn't know.
Well, he did say nothing. There's nothing he could say to stop the torture.
Right. That's no,
it's ridiculous.
FT. No, it's not ridiculous. That is the whole. That is the whole point. That's why Zell eventually says he doesn't know anything. Just get rid of him. That's the whole point of this.
But he could have concluded that from the first time. whatever. I mean, but they, all right, anyhow, continue with, where do you want to go with this?
What?
Nowhere. I'm tired. I don't want to go anywhere.
No, yeah. I want to talk about that scene with Olivier. The brilliance of that scene, which I could enjoy without going down these rabbit holes of nitpicking. The brilliance of
a rabbit hole of nitpicking.
Yes, you're
a rabbit hole of mixed metaphors. Yes.
The brilliance, the lighting, everything in that scene with Hoffman, after being drowned, he's now in this chair. What the hell is going on? The way Olivier comes into that room with his briefcase and I think a trench coat, and takes off his trench coat, sits down his briefcase, goes over to the sink and thoroughly washes his hands because of course he wouldn't want Babe to get any kind of infection.
No, absolutely not. Right? He's a doctor. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, again, you can argue about what he was interrogating, but I think the proof is in the pudding that that scene.
The proof is in the rabbit hole.
The way
the pudding's in the rabbit hole.
It's a legendary scene. Yes. I mean, it works so well.
Yes, that's torture. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Okay. Yes, right.
Let's get to the Diamond District scene where Zell tries to find out what his diamonds are worth. What do you think of that scene?
I remembered it completely differently. I did. When it happened, I said, "Oh, right." I remembered. I thought that he gets that a lot more people were survivors than the one woman. You know what I mean? And then the other fellow,
yes.
And the appraisers,
Yep. I think the sequence in the Diamond District is really is one of the best parts of the movie for me. It sounds like too. For you too.
Yeah. Particularly how Olivier character handles the whole business of, he sees the tattoo, and he immediately has a backstory. That he has a small shop in London, and he pulls it off. He's believable.
I know you. Perhaps you do. I'm pretty good at faces myself.
I know this.
Christopher Hess, how do you do? Christopher Hess, how do you do? Wait. Let me think. I think, surely you came to our antique shop in London.
No, that wasn't it.
No, but you've been to London.
True. But I don't think...
Hess of Golders Green. We've been there since 33, when we got out of Germany, my wife and I. Our little shop is quite fashionable now.
I always wanted to visit London.
Well, I suggest you hurry while it's still there. Well, I thank you for your time, and I'm sorry 90,000 is far too high for me. Our little shop isn't quite fashionable. Thank you.
I know that you man. It can't be. Sel! Der weiße Engel ist hier. Oh my God! Stop him! Stop him! Der weiße Engel! Der weiße Engel!
Here's some blasphemy from me.
Blasphemy.
And it doesn't work unless you'd have to figure out how to make it work. But I kind of wish the Jews killed Zell in the Diamond District.
But that's what I remember. I thought he was mugged. I thought he was attacked there.
That's so funny. I thought the same thing. I thought that's where it was going.
That's where it ends.
That's so weird. And it would have been.
I thought it did.
Because I do not like the ending of this movie, and we're going to talk about that when we get there. But I wish it could have ended with the Jews getting the revenge in the Diamond District. Of course, it doesn't really work structurally because it leaves the protagonist out of the resolution.
Well, you could have worked it out. Somebody could have written a version where Dustin Hoffman shows up and he is not given the chance for revenge.
Right. Yes.
And because there's a greater revenge.
That's good.
That is taken. That's the way I would have done it.
See, we're being just like Billy Wilder and IAL Diamond right now. Good
Except
job.
You're typing.
Exactly.
I'm on the couch.
Well, that's the way they do it. They'd switch. They switch.
No swallowing jokes.
Right.
That was the last show.
Yes. Let's go to the farmhouse scene where Dustin Hoffman goes with Elsa and I guess calls Devane, and they all come to meet him at this farmhouse, and there's the showdown between between Devane and the evil characters and Dustin Hoffman. Question for you, FT: Why does Janie kill his own henchman and give Babe the address where Zell's going to be at the bank? Why does Devane help Babe out?
I don't know. Covering his tracks.
How does that cover his? How does that cover his? That wouldn't cover. It'd be the reverse, because he could have killed Babe right in the farmhouse. That's covering his tracks. Now Babe's walking around alive, so it's the reverse of covering.
Yeah, but
his
he
tracks.
tries to kill Babe. He shoots at him, doesn't he?
I don't think.
Yes, he does.
Okay, I
yeah,
think,
he shoots the other guys because he wants. I think he does, but he gets. He gets shot.
I don't know about that.
Well, so he just lets him go, is what you're saying? I don't think so.
He gives Babe Zell's going to be at this bank at this time. He gives him the answer.
That's true. He
and
does. Why?
And he kills his own henchman. I'm asking you why.
I don't know why. I
Okay.
mean, to me, it's one of the lamest scenes in the entire film.
Okay. Well, again, this comes back to the book versus film conundrum. But I'm going to let you answer it yourself by a closer reading of the film, an FT Kosempa style close read of the film. Okay. All right. Ready? I'll help you. I'll guide you there. So go back to what?
Nothing. Thank you.
Go back to the first scene with Roy Scheider in the Paris hotel room. He gets on the phone. Who does he call?
He wants to have a tryst with Janie. William Devane.
Yes. So Devane is
lovers.
They're lovers. So
right.
So that's why he knows that Zell has killed his lover, Doc, and so he wants Babe to go kill Zell. He can't kill Zell, right? Because his job is protecting Zell for the division. Or what?
Nope.
No what?
What? Anyhow, continue with your theory, but it's
not. It's not my theory. It's in the book. They're lovers.
It's different in the movie then, But
it's just not explicit in the movie. Right. It's very subtle because you think he's on the phone with a woman named Janie. Hey, come on over here. Blah,
right
blah, blah.
At the beginning,
right. But they're lovers, and Devane, Janie cannot kill Zell because the division has to keep Zell alive. But he can sure help Babe to hopefully kill Zell.
True.
Yeah.
Now, the only problem with that reading is that at the end of the torture scene,
yes,
when Olivier, when Zell says, get rid of him, he doesn't know anything.
Right.
Devane then says, we don't need you anymore. You're obsolete.
Yes. No.
He gets rid of him.
No. He gets rid of Zell.
Yes.
No, he doesn't get rid of him. He's like,
yes, he does.
No. He says, and again, this is another convention of thrillers, which I don't know if Goldman invented, but it was pretty early on. The ticking clock thing. So he says, you've got till 1 o'clock tomorrow, and you got to be out of the country. I'm done. Done babysitting you here. You got to leave.
You're of no use to us anymore.
Which sets the clock in motion. Right. But he's not authorized to kill Zell. He just gets him out of the country, but he can use Babe to kill Zell, which is what happens.
It's interesting because what I thought about when you were saying this was, as brilliant as as really good as the bathroom scene was, that's how poorly planned I think the farmhouse living room scene was. There were so many people crammed in that room, and the distances were just so bad. The eye lines were off. There's a couple cases where his eye lines were off.
Yes.
And I mean, he's my whole thinking was that he's going to cover himself, the double agent back, that he's going to kill the Nazis because they're of no use anymore. There's no more Nazis to get. That's what I was thinking. Whatever.
I think you're overthinking it, and you're right. Schlesinger violated a couple of the key rules of.
I think
directing.
you're underthinking it.
But Schlesinger did violate a couple of the key rules of directing. Number 1 being never work with animals. 2, never shoot in a farmhouse.
Never shoot a bad scene, Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
let's go to the ending, and of course I refer to the scene in the waterworks, which apparently took 6 months to build that friggin' set.
It looked it.
You love that? You love the scene?
No,
in the
I said it looked it. It looked it.
Oh, okay. It was a good set. But what did you think of the scene in the waterworks? FT, go. And I'm not going to tell you whether to shit on it or not. You're on your own.
Poop on it. Just use it, put it down. It's not. It's too much shit. It was interesting. No, it was interesting. You know what I'm saying? Did I like it? I found. Of course, troublesome. I found it interesting that, Hoffman's solution, instead of just shooting him, was to make him swallow the diamonds. Now, this is Robert Towne's ending, right? Apparently, what people think.
Yes.
That was tacked on because, it's different in the book.
Yes. No,
so
it was. Let's clarify. Robert Towne rewrote the ending, and so I guess my question is: did Robert Towne fuck up the ending?
Well, I don't know. What's the other ending? I mean,
Well, Goldman's ending is Babe.
Babe shoots him. Right?
I think they walk. At gunpoint, he takes him around Central Park, and they have the typical
long
thing.
Talk,
this you did, and then shoots him, and then the police come and lead away Dustin Hoffman.
All right, and let me ask you this then, because that's one of my problems with this ending is, what happens to the diamonds in Goldman's ending?
Okay, they did shoot that. It was cut out. So basically, I think I don't know why they used it again. So I think the end they shot. Unfortunately, they didn't do it. I think they used, which is weird because it was in Butch Cassidy. It's basically a montage over raindrops keep falling on my head, and it just shows New Yorkers turning on their taps and diamonds coming out, and they smile, and there's
rainbows and
these special effects where people would get a diamond and smile, and a glint would come off their teeth.
Yes, their eyeballs. Yes, star filters all galore.
But to your question, in the novel, I assume what happens. So again, Hoffman shoots Zell in Central Park, and the police take him away. So I assume the diamonds are still in the briefcase at that point.
But who gets the briefcase? Unknown, or you don't know. Okay, what struck me was two things. I did find it clever that he makes him eat it, and or try to.
Essen,
which is
Essen.
Undelica Essen. Yes. And I did like the tension there where, the Nazi refuses it. I'm the one that should be doing this torture, not you.
Well, there's another interesting little twist on stereotypes there that we should take note of is that the Jew doesn't care about riches, and the German is all about the money.
Yes, true. Also, then. Well, interestingly enough, it's so weird because, that's what I wrote a note saying like, oh, I'm an idealist. Remember he says, I'm the idealist. My father, died for a cause, a free speech. So I'm not going to take the money at all. I'm not going to take the diamonds and do good with it. No way. And which I found to be like fucking bullshit, But technically that scene, the diamonds spill all over the place when Zell falls down the stairs.
Yes.
And then there's still many of them in the briefcase when it's open at the bottom. It was just so poorly done. It's not, the briefcase is not emptied at the bottom. And that would have been impossible. But anyhow, but I think it's a more effective, to be honest with you, it's a more effective scene than Dusty just shooting Zell.
I mean, what's kind of good about what's kind of good about Towne's ending is it's kind of based on tragedy, even though Zell is not the protagonist. Zell brings about, his greed for the diamonds has brought about his own downfall. It's what brings him out of safety, brings him to New York, and then going after these diamonds, what causes him to trip and fall and die. So he
gets impaled on his own knife too, right?
Yeah, hoisted on his own petard.
Yeah, which is yes. Right.
Let's move on to acting, FT. Two principal actors, Dustin Hoffman, Sir Laurence Olivier. Why don't we start with Hoffman? Your thoughts?
I thought he was really believable. There were times where I think there were script problems, but I think you had issues with Dustin's performance. You said so. What did you find unbelievable about it?
I felt, and I think it might have been strangely spotlighted by the contrast with Olivier's approach. Was so different than Hoffman with the method approach. So, but for instance, the scene where he's being questioned by the cops and then Janeway after his brother's death, it felt false to me. His emotion, what do you want?
What are you bothering me for?
Right?
Yeah.
You look at me like I'm doing something wrong. Like I did something wrong. I don't understand it. I'm trying to tell you I don't know anything.
Your name, please.
I told you my name!
Take it easy, will you?
My name is Thomas Babington Levy.
You're a student.
I come from a family of historians. Here's my card, and that's a proof. Please put those papers down. Please tell them to put the papers down!
Take it easy. What's in the papers?
That they have to do with the paper that I'm writing.
Would you tell me who this is?
It felt false, and it felt like, I was watching an actor who was doing, dipping into memories and it seemed like whatever he was working from was the wrong things. Of course, there's going to be grief there. There's going to be shock. But again, the way he reacted, it just felt false to me. And again, we all have our own things. But if I was directing him there or editing, I would have picked a different take there. And I felt so much that he was doing, too much. And this, the stories from the set, you're probably aware of them, and the big, the big myth and controversy about Hoffman and Olivier, are part of this whole thing. You're aware of the big
Yes,
myth and controversy.
The famous line.
So Hoffman, for instance, whenever he was supposed to be out of breath, would go out and run a half mile to come out out of breath, because he would say, he'd say, you can't fake being out of breath. And Bob Evans talked about, they waited for him for an hour, it might have been an hour, Hoffman deciding whether he should take his shirt on or shirt off. And then where the story comes from is, Hoffman told Olivier that he'd stayed up for 3 nights, to look tired. And Olivier says, maybe you should why don't you just try acting? And it's become kind of infamous, and that Hoffman has gone on inside the actor's studio and said, oh, no, it was all just, I was out at Studio 54, I was partying then, I was just up, and, it was all in good fun. But Evans telling of it, and from what I heard, they did get along very well. So if Olivier said it, it was, with a lifted eyebrow about the way Hoffman was preparing. Apparently, Devane and Scheider were endlessly mocking, making fun of Olivier, calling him Sir this. And so I think there was a lot of joking around. So it wasn't like an animosity thing, but it was telling. And Hoffman was infamous for, like I said, every time he had to be out of breath, they had to go wait for him to run around the block. Evans said that whenever Hoffman, whenever he asked Hoffman, how do you like acting with Laurence Olivier, Hoffman would always say, he's marvelous in the theater.
Huh.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of cutting a little bit cutting there, but for me, I'm an uneducated. I don't know Shakespeare. I don't know Olivier. So coming into this, I'd be like, I'm not gonna like the classical training that Olivier's had. I'm going to be all about the method and Hoffman. But watching these actors in this movie, I come out on, whatever Olivier was doing worked much better for me. And it was interesting, as we've talked about in previous podcasts where, in my acting training in the last podcast, I think I said Jean Shelton, the teacher I had, was a member of the actors. She was actually she was in the group. She was in the group theater, so all the way back. And in the master class, she revealed that it was all about script analysis, which I love to hear because I was like, I can do that. And because mostly I was studying acting to be a better writer and a better director. And what I found out about Olivier's technique is it is all about the script. he's so precise in the when he comes into that room for the torture screen, his physical actions are so precise and perfect. The way he takes Dustin Hoffman's head to put the dental tools in is like gentle. He's like, what's interesting, he does not he doesn't play the villain as a villain, which is precisely the way you have to play a villain, because villains never think they're villains. Villains always think they're, good guys. They never think they're villainous.
They often don't think, right.
And it's interesting because he's playing Joseph Mengele. And if you've read any of the stuff about Mengele, he never felt he was doing anything wrong. In fact, so one of Mengele's main jobs was to stand on the platforms at the rail station, and the rail cars would come in loaded with Jews. And Mengele would just stand on the platform in uniform and just, as they came off, point. And if he pointed one way, the people were sent to the gas chambers to die. If he pointed the other way, they were sent to the camps to work.
Hence the angel part, life and death. Oh,
right.
Jesus.
And so Mengele's son, Rolf, talked about his father. And Mengele to the end never, said he never did anything wrong. And his son, Rolf, summarized his father, Joseph Mengele's words, quote, "He couldn't help anyone. On the platform, for instance, what was he to do when the half-dead and infected people arrived? His job was to clarify only able to work and unable to work. He thinks he saved the lives of thousands of people in that way. He hasn't ordered the extermination, and he's not doing the extermination, and he's not responsible. Also, the twins owe their lives to him." Do you know what that refers to?
No.
This
is ringing a bell. But.
Yeah, so when he wanted to experiment, he's fascinated by twins because of his eugenics work. So he's, in his, and again, that's why it's so twisted here. In his mind, he saved the lives of all these twins by doing, sorry, I don't mean to. He saved the lives of all these twins by saying, oh, yeah, let's take them and experiment on them. And he saved the lives of all these people. He said, oh, you can, I'll spare you. But the people who died, that wasn't him. He wasn't doing the exterminating. So again, this was my point here is, and that's what was so great about Olivier's performance here is, again, he's a guy doing what he has to do,
Yeah.
But it doesn't see himself as an evil person. He's not condescending to that.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, good point. Yeah, the usual Nazi excuse was that it was legal, by the way.
Right, or following orders, right.
No, not just following orders. That's the Nuremberg came out of that. That's the bullshit. It was legal. I mean, it was the law. And so when you're saying following orders, well, are we following the orders by, following the laws in the United States? I guess so. But anyhow, it was interesting that he had that argument that he was just following the law, But it was legally set up. I mean, it was all legal, the extermination and the labor camps. That was the law. Yep. Jesus.
We are running way over here. So unless anything left to talk about for the supporting actors, I don't really have anything specific to say on the supporting cast. How about you, FT?
Nope.
Anything specific to say about the director of photography, Conrad L. Hall?
I'm surprised that you didn't bring up the use of Steadicam in this film.
Well, that's where I'm going next. So
you usually hate Steadicam.
Oh, I do, and
I didn't even notice it here.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was Steadicam.
Yeah, that's what makes me. I did, and that's what makes me sad about this film. Yeah, I think this was the second film to ever use Steadicam. So this is where the world starts coming to an end. I just, I detest Steadicams, and the reason why I think it worked here is, they were, not really sure what they could do with them. They used them in a limited way.
Where'd they use them? Do you know?
Probably? I would think in the running sequence, which I think that motivates. If you're going to use a Steadicam, use it in a running sequence like that. But don't. My problem with Steadicams now is like, okay, why bother setting up track? Let's just Steadicam.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it didn't bother me in this film, but it bothered me knowing that this was the beginning of the
right.
the
But
beginning of the Steadicam era.
Right. But it's interesting that you said it didn't bother you at the beginning. You know, it's the what it led to.
Right. Sure.
You know, because you could certainly shoot Dusty running just from a truck.
Right. Yes. All right. So FT, talking about running, we have run. we have run out of time. Sorry about that one. I want to thank everybody for listening to They Shoot Films. If you haven't already, please give us a rating. Please give us a review if you can do it. Please tell your friends to listen to They Shoot Films. Thank you all for listening to They Shoot Films. I'm going to say goodbye to you, FT.
And I'm going to say farewell to you, Ken.
Farewell to arms. Farewell to arms and legs and heads.
And other body parts.
Yes. Have a good one, FT.
You too, buddy.
They Shoot Films is a production of Film Symposium West. Produced by Anne-Marie De Palma. Studio announcer Roy Blumenfeld.